Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys from the Big C tribe in Africa. Big C, they've been following us since they built the pyramids over in Africa, so thank you for following. You know we love you in Canada, but Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys?
I think I'm waiting on Game 7 of the World Series talking tonight.
No, that's over already.
It's over?
Yeah.
After Game 6 went so long, I fell asleep. I guess I must have. Who won the series?
I think those good old boys down from the great state of Texas, they didn't build a wall fast enough to keep the good players from coming in from Latin America, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I guess we'll say congratulations to the Houston Astros on winning the World Series. I overslept and missed everything.
Yeah. Them good old boys got it done. Just a great series it was. Game 7, first time ever at Chavez Ravine Dodger Stadium. And the good boys from the great state of Texas came in and they took over the California Sun and the California Dream, and they took it all back home. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, things are big in Texas, Charlton, and everywhere else, so I guess it's well deserved. The Astros win.
Yeah.
First time in their 54-year franchise history. It was the first time there was a Game 7 ever played at Dodger Stadium in Chavez Ravine. But, you know, great accolades for the Astros, and, you know, big cheers, big ups for the city of Houston.
Yeah.
To have something to finally celebrate after having such a tough, long, tumultuous winter, Charlton, that they can celebrate a Major League Baseball World Series. So that's just great for that series, for that city.
Yeah.
We can always move on in sports and look at things and look at what just happened today and yesterday. But a World Series lasts for a year, Charlton.
Oh,
and
yeah.
some people, they've waited a lifetime for it.
Yep.
And to be able to rejoice and you know, relish in that, Charlton, great up for the city of Houston, and hopefully their recovery will be speeded along and with a little more ease now, Charlton.
That's a very good point. Today is a beautiful November the 6th, 2017, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And I do want to just say our thoughts and prayers go out to all the victims of that another church shooting, tragically, down in the state of Texas. And I don't even know what to say. I know Coach Popovich had some things to say with San Antonio Spurs to the great people of Texas. And I don't know what to do. We don't have gun control. I think it's easier for a kid to buy a gun. If he's a teenager, a kid can buy a gun when he can't buy a lottery ticket, and that's a shame for the greatest country supposedly on the face of the planet. But I do want to say our thoughts and prayers go out to the families in the great state of Texas. Big C, any thoughts on that?
One thing I want to add on that is that, you know, so quickly the president, you know, the tragedy in New York last week, which is a tragedy anywhere that the loss of human life is taken, you know, by some insane person, is that you label the guy a terrorist in New York. I mean, that next day, that night, people were labeling him as a terrorist.
Yeah.
Now, we've had 2 mass shootings in America in the last month and a half, okay, by white men, okay?
Yeah.
White men in Vegas. You shoot 800 people, you're white, and you're called a sick individual.
Yeah.
You go into a church. This is the second time we've had a church shooting in 2.5 years in America. And you go in and you shoot these innocent people that are worshiping in a house of prayer. And you're not called a terrorist. You are a terrorist when you go in with 15 magazines, fully loaded, going to create carnage of human life, Charlton. That's a terrorist. You don't have to be dark complected, and that's the only people that get named terrorists in this country are dark complected. The political, you know, climate does not want to say that a white can be a terrorist. We didn't have it in Charlottesville. Where the Nazis, they weren't called terrorists. Okay, they were called good people by the president in the White House.
Yeah.
Okay, and we get this guy in Vegas. The White House said, well, it's too soon to talk gun control after the tragedy.
Yeah.
Enough time hasn't passed to evaluate the situation. Now we have this situation, this terrorist act in Texas in a church, a house of worship.
Yeah.
And you can't call it a terrorist act because he was a sick person, they say.
Yeah.
He was a criminal. He was a terrorist. He had been arrested. He had been kicked out of the military, Charlton. He had an unhonorable discharge.
Yeah.
He was not supposed to be able to buy a gun, but somebody dropped the ball and didn't register him, as an abuser.
Yeah.
He had beat his stepchild. He had beat his wife. He was arrested. He was convicted. He was court-martialed.
Yep.
And he was a terrorist, Charlton. And the political landscape would not call a white man in America who commits mass murder a terrorist. I'm appalled with this.
Yeah, and I think sometime when you look at it, where the president told them to rough them up, and he was talking to law enforcement, there's some knuckleheads that think you're talking to them also. So I really think it's deeper than just some guy being a crazy terrorist, inland born, inland made, American made. But it's great if the president can say, you know what, I was wrong for telling other Americans to rough up other Americans, even though he was talking to law enforcement about roughing up people of color.
No, Charlton, he wasn't talking to. If you go back to the convention, he was in a convention and he made that statement. Rough them up. Back in the old days, you could do whatever you wanted to these people, and there would be no recourse from law enforcement.
Yeah.
That's what he told America, and too many people have taken to heart what the president has said.
Yeah, they have.
The shooter in Vegas, he took to heart what the president said.
Yep.
This guy in Texas, he took to heart what the president said.
Yeah.
The guy who jumped on Senator Rand Paul at his house the other day, on Friday, who beat him up and cracked 5 ribs.
Wow.
Took to heart what the president said.
Yeah.
Even our political leaders are under attack because of what the president is saying.
Yeah.
And if you're saying something other than what he's not, even as a politician, you're going to be attacked.
I think,
and so our values and our core beliefs in America are under attack by the guy in the White House. Because he has spewed this venom in America that makes Americans unsafe from Americans, Charlton.
Yeah, and
that's what we look at. We look at how many domestic terrorist attacks that we've had since he's been elected. It's off the charts, Charlton. I mean, we get the big ones.
Yeah.
But that little one's occurring all the time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he doesn't have the decency to even say that he was wrong about anything that he said negative. But we'll keep bringing it to you on the Big C Sports Show. I do want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, a lot of things happen in the world of sports, from Dillashaw knocking out Cody Garbrandt at the UFC 217s in New York City. That was on Fox Sports on Saturday. A lot of things have happened in the world of MMA. But before we even talk about some of the great things in college football, you know how I think it was the great Nick Saban. And Nick Saban told everybody when Alabama was dropped from number 2, actually from number 1 to number 2, he said the polls don't matter. Who cares about the polls? I think Nick Saban and you guys drink that same old moonshine that lets you guys become clairvoyant, because what Nick told us came true, Big C. Your thoughts on what happened in college football before we run down some of the big games that happened, Big C?
Charlton, this was a tremendous weekend in college football. It's like what we keep talking about. Why we keep bringing out these polls?
Yeah.
Let's play the season out. Then, at week 10, week 11, bring out the polls at that point.
Yeah.
Because all this jockeying back and forth saying this team's in, this team's not in. Since this bowl series has started, Charlton.
Yeah.
Only 4 teams have made it in that were ranked in the initial ranking.
Yeah.
Only 4. So, you think about it. And here it is. The first week of this bowl ranking comes out.
Yeah.
What happens? Number 3 and number 4, where'd they go?
They get knocked out. Yeah, they get knocked out. Yeah.
They'll play in a bowl game, but not in the championship series.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting here saying that these are the best teams in the country, the people who are sitting in that room drinking the moonshine, I'm not going to say my labels on that jar that they're drinking out of.
Yeah.
They're sipping the moonshine to say these teams are better than other teams. We have teams that are still undefeated, Charlton.
Yeah.
Can't get a whisper. Wisconsin. What has Wisconsin done wrong not to be ranked higher than what they are, Charlton?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Miami. What have they done wrong? We have teams ranked above Wisconsin who's undefeated and Miami's who's undefeated.
Yeah.
Saying that they have a better resume. When you lose your resume, I think they call it tainted.
Yeah, they call it tainted. Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So it's not about the eye test. The eye test, and I don't see well. I tell my kids all the time I got glaucoma, all right? So the eye test, I don't know what the eye test is, but I know what the win-loss record is.
Yeah.
That's the test that I always, even when you're in school, it's about passing and failing, wins and losses.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, in any sporting event, you can't tell me that the Cleveland Cavaliers won the NBA title last year, and they lost more games than the Golden State did in the title.
Yeah, that's
case, okay.
That's true.
So is that an eye test because you got the greatest player on the planet? So that means you're better than the team that won the championship.
Well, that's a lot.
That's what I'm going through.
Yeah, that's a lot of what happens. You got to play it on the floors, and you look at the UCLA going into Utah. Both were 4-4 at the time. The Bruins come out 4-5. Utah goes to 5-4 in the season. I know the great Josh Rosen wasn't able to play that game, but UCLA was blasted by Utah. Memphis, number 21, with a 41-14 win over Tulsa. But Wisconsin 8-0 going into the record, into the season, or into this game anyway. 9-0 now. Beat up on Indiana by the score of 45-17. And again, not getting a lot of press. But I want to
tell me something, Charlton. Indiana opened up the season with Ohio State, didn't they?
They played them close in the first half.
And Ohio State squeaked that out by a touchdown. All right? Ohio State beat Indiana by a touchdown. And you're going into this after Wisconsin just drubbed Indiana. You're still going to say that Ohio State's a better team. They just have 2 losses. And then if they're right behind Indiana, Wisconsin in the rankings.
Yeah, and you look at Penn State, going into the game, ranked number 7 in the country. They're now 7-2 at Michigan State, which was 6-2 going into it. They're 7-2 now. I know they had a big thunderstorm and a rain delay, but Michigan State to get the win over Penn State, a 27-24 win. That's 2 in a row that Penn State has dropped when they were looking like they were going to be one of the teams that got into the Final Four for college football. Just your thoughts on Penn State and not being able to rebound from a close loss that they had on the road at Ohio State. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, didn't both Penn State and Michigan State play in that same field and same weather conditions?
Yeah.
Okay. When you look at the Heisman race, last week J.T. Barrett had risen into a trip to New York.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, from the start of the season, everybody said he was the best player in the country. Both of those players had dismal performances last year. Last week, Ohio State getting stroked by Iowa.
Yeah.
Giving up over 50 points. Saquon Barkley was basically shut down by Michigan State.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, when you try to run through one horse, Charlton, instead of using the whole stable, this is what happens. You put all your eggs in one basket. Michigan State went out and handled. They're playing with house money. We talked about that in last week's show.
Yeah.
Michigan State had no fear. They knew that they were playing a team that was a little disenchanted in Penn State, had been beat up by Ohio State, and was coming into their house.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So Michigan State was at home and had everything to play for.
Well, Penn State went into that game an 8.5-point favorite. That game was on Fox. So good job for D'Antonio with Michigan State trying to hang in there and pursue that Big Ten championship. Auburn, 15th in the country, 6-2 on the season going into the A&M game. They get the win by the score of 42-27, and they go to 7-2 on the season. A&M drops to 5-4. Auburn did almost cover. They were favored by 15, and they ended up in a good 15-point win at A&M. Just your thoughts on Auburn having a chance, because this week is when it gets tough for them. They have to take Georgia coming into Auburn Stadium. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you're in the SEC and you got a quarterback that can throw the ball, Jared Stidham at Auburn, Stidham came out of that Baylor program before Art Briles was derailed down there.
Yeah.
This is a quarterback that can throw the ball. He's the difference maker in the Auburn's offense. They haven't thrown the ball this well since Cam Newton won the Heisman Trophy. And when you play in a predominantly running conference, you got to think about it. They have Georgia this week and they have Alabama within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, very tough.
Auburn will decide who wins the SEC title.
Yeah.
They honestly will, because they're going to knock off one of those 2 teams. Auburn will either beat Georgia, Alabama, hands down, because Jared Stidham can throw the football. That's the difference maker. Georgia's a great running team, but they can't match them in the air, Charlton.
Yeah, Auburn can throw the football too, and they actually beat A&M at Kyle Field by a larger margin than what Alabama did. We also have a Mississippi State, a 34-23 win over Massachusetts. That's pretty close for UMass coming into Mississippi State and playing them close. I want to also take you to another team that is in the chase. In the chase for what? I don't know. South Carolina 6-2 at Georgia. Georgia with a big win there. But Ohio State, number 3 in the country going into it, 7-1. They fall to now 7-2. They were blown out at Iowa. Iowa has they're 6-3 now, but they have this great thing that they do, Big C, with a hospital that's right next to the stadium, and a lot of the fans will turn around and wave at the hospital. It's become sort of a thing that's part of the university now, where the kids that are kind of going through their own issues, they can at least look down on the field and see the Hawkeyes give them a little bit of relief, Big C. What does that mean, a big 55-24 win over Ohio State, not just against the Buckeyes, but against this whole college football factory of ranking teams, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, Charlton, that children's hospital that you speak of that's on the campus of University of Iowa, which they left an opening in that end of the stadium, Charlton, so that the children in the hospital could peer down and watch football games.
Yeah.
To give them a little joy on game day. And you're talking about some elated children, Charlton, Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
They were there in that hospital, and that's just a great human story that the University of Iowa presents for the fans and those children in that hospital that have critical medical conditions that they're in Charlton, and they get this relief on Saturday. But, Kurt Ferentz, you got to take your hat off to the guy, Charlton.
Yeah.
Ohio State's coming in on this high after beating up on Penn State in that last-minute victory that they had in Columbus. And they went on the road. They celebrated a little too long. They were reading their press clippings. Didn't they listen to Nick Saban? I'd be damned if these guys don't listen to Nick Saban. Nick Saban knows what he's talking about, okay?
I want some of the shine he's drinking is what I want, Big C. He got some clairvoyant stuff.
You got these guys thinking that they're better than what they are by reading the press, because I hope you don't write anything about it.
No,
you and I had talked about it as many other people in the media. That game was probably the best game we had seen all year up until that point. As far as competitive back and forth. And so the players on Ohio State, through social media and everything else, by no fault of their own, but they've been taught to read their press clippings. Players nowadays can get it instantaneously. And I don't think that they turn off social media until after the game was over in Iowa and realized they had their butts kicked off.
No, that was a big whipping. So congratulations to the Hawkeyes. And a great thing reaching out to the community, those kids at the hospital, having the chance to feel a lot of sunshine, whether the Hawkeyes win or lose. But I think that's great, that fan interaction they have. I look at Clemson going to 8-1 on the season. They were playing at number 19, North Carolina State. And Clemson comes away with a 38-31 win, giving up a lot of points. But I know they have the issues with the quarterback. Is that an impressive enough win with Notre Dame, but just blowing out North Carolina State the week before, and then Clemson going on the road and having a closer game against North Carolina State? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Kelly Bryant is still not 100% healthy. We know they had inclement weather there at North Carolina State. But North Carolina State is a better offensive team than what people give them credit for. They can actually throw the football. They have some great big receivers on that offense. Quarterback has a real strong arm. He came out of the University of Montana years ago, transferred there, and he has grown up in that ACC. But Kelly Bryant, they got to get him healthy. Clemson was out without two of their defensive backs in this game, and North Carolina State took advantage of it. People don't realize the depth in college football, as they always talk about, teams having depth. And without that, that's when you become very, very vulnerable. We saw that when Bryant went down in a game with a concussion, and Clemson suffered their only loss of the season. So you've got to keep your first line players healthy. Not North Carolina, but Clemson lost a couple, but they were able to pull this out. They had the one loss early. Now they're back into that playoff chase, Charles.
That's always a good thing. And then think about a high-scoring game. Notre Dame was challenged at home by Wake Forest. Wake Forest comes in 5-3. They leave 5-4. And then Notre Dame goes to 8-1 on the season with a 48-37 win. I know it's a double-digit win. They were favored by 14, but they only got the win by 11 points. Now, Notre Dame can flat out run the football, but something in my mind tells me this is college. It's not pro football. But if that would have been a better team coming in to Notre Dame Station and playing them in front of Touchdown Jesus, maybe they don't get the win, because Wake Forest should have been an easier win for Notre Dame. Your thoughts on Notre Dame maybe also reading the press clip is too much, Big C?
Well, Charlton, people play up to you. That's the thing. You try not to play down to your opponent. You want your opponent to play up to you, and that's what Wake Forest did coming into Notre Dame. They knew that they were playing a good team. They looked at some of the big victories that they've had thus far this year. They had that one loss against Georgia. But Wake Forest has had a solid season, Charlton. They're one game away from bowl eligibility. As you say, Notre Dame and other players on that team reading press clippings. And that's what happens with the young men now. They all want to be patted on the back. I mean, anybody who's an athlete wants to be raised, okay, when you're out there performing. And so Notre Dame, has a couple of tough games left on the schedule. You just can't go to sleep on them, and they went to sleep a little bit on Wake Forest defensively, and they stayed in that game.
That's a very good point, Big C. I also want to give a thanks to the Bulldog Nation, the Fresno State Bulldogs under Jeff Teffer, who played back for the Bulldogs back in the day under the late Jim Sweeney, getting Fresno State back into the bowl eligibility, coming to Fresno after winning one game last year, David Carr's alma mater. So congratulations, Jeff Teffer, getting Fresno State the win over BYU at Bulldog Stadium. It's good to see the Bulldogs back in Central California. Also, Big C, another huge game in a team that was kind of wrecking the season for people. You look at Iowa State, the way they knocked off Oklahoma, got to number 16 in the country, on the road at West Virginia, which was 5-3 going into the game, and West Virginia gets the win 20-16. They were favored by 2.5, but here's a team in Iowa State, and people were saying, is Iowa State going to be the team that represents the Big 12 Southwest Conference, formerly Southwest Conference? They go on the road at West Virginia in a game they had in the palm of their hands, but West Virginia shows that they're very resilient, especially at home, getting the win, knocking off Iowa State. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is a team that, thought that they could just run the table, Charles.
Yep.
They had a couple of big victories, and you're not thinking the teams are as good as what they are.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a player that the University of Florida could use right now, Will Greer, quarterback for West Virginia, had a career day, Charles.
Yeah.
He was dropping dimes all over the field. And so Iowa State was on a high.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you have that hiccup one week, and you come back down to earth. But West Virginia with Dana Holgorsen as head coach always have the firepower offensively to challenge anybody, Charlton, on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Big C. Also, Iowa State, they still in the thick of things, but that seems like their chances to win the Big 12 are gone. Up in the Palouse, out in the Great Northwest, number 18 Stanford going into the game at 6-2. At Washington State, also 7-2, and Washington State gets the win 24-21. Love doesn't seem to have all of his footing under him. He's still hobbling along a little bit. Didn't get 100 yards in that game. Maybe not his best game of the year, but Washington State gets that win up in the Palouse. And I want to also take you to what was arguably, Big C, I thought basketball season already started when I tuned into the Oklahoma and Oklahoma State game. Now, I think you said these guys would throw for over 1,000 yards, and I want to say you and Nick Saban were right again. I don't know what kind of moonshine, but I want some of what you guys are drinking. A 62-52 win. Oklahoma number 9 going into the game. Oklahoma State 7-1 going into the game, and Oklahoma State was actually favored by 2.5. But that good old boy that can throw the football, he couldn't run from the police all that well when he was trying to get away from the law enforcement down there when he was in trouble in the offseason. But Baker Mayfield, I don't know if I'm impressed by him as every week goes, but this guy, he knows how to win, a lot like Johnny Manziel when he was playing down at A&M. Your thoughts on Oklahoma with a shootout win over Oklahoma State, Big C?
Now, many people don't remember, Charlton. Baker Mayfield started out his career at Texas Tech as a walk-on. He won the starting job as a true walk-on as a freshman.
Wow.
That's how much he's evolved over time, Charlton. But when you look at this shootout between he and Rudolph at Bedlam at OKC State, this was a game for the ages. As we said, we thought we saw the game of the year last week. Okay, in college football. That got thrown under the bus in a hurry. This game at Oklahoma State was a game of the ages in college football, Charlton. We talked about these two quarterbacks going into the game. They're thrown combined just under 6,000 yards. Okay. Here it is in this game, Charlton. They were just under 1,100 yards between them in this game. Between them. Both quarterbacks threw 5 touchdowns. This was a game that, we talked about, you bought the seat, but you only needed the head. Because it went that far into this game, that Charlton basically down to the last series. But when you think about big play after big play, they keep talking about in the Heisman hunt. I think they'll give the trophy to Mayfield, even whether he's the best player in the country or not. He's surrounded by a lot of guys who make plays when you think about what he's doing. He was throwing passes to guys yards after catch with 25, 30, 40 yards after the catch, okay? So quarterbacks get credited with a lot of yards. But, his overall performance was just outstanding. 5 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. He did everything to will his team to win in this, Charlton. Not to slight Rudolph, because any other day Oklahoma State will won. You put up 52 points.
You're supposed to win.
You got to start scratching your head as a head coach. It's like, You know, this doesn't make sense. We scored 52. And we lost by 12.
Well, I hear some of the pundits saying we don't know if we want a team from the Big 12 in the playoff series because you're going to have to win those 17-14 games or those 20-19 games. I think if a team could go out and put 50 points on the scoreboard, they have a chance of beating anybody that can score a 19-14 victory, a 21-17 victory. I'm impressed with the way they play offense.
That's the fear of the bowl committee.
Yeah.
Is that you put a team like Oklahoma in, you put a good team like Oklahoma State in.
Yeah.
Those other Heritage University, they can't compete with them athletically as far as with the passing game.
No.
And so you're going to blow out if you go back to when Ohio State won the inaugural championship, Charlton, they won that game how? They won that series how? Cordell Jones, passing for over 300 yards in every game, starting with the Big Ten championship game.
Yep.
Every game he went out there and hung over 300 yards in the air, and they blew out every opponent.
Yeah.
And that's what the bowl committee doesn't want. If you look at Clemson last year, how they won.
Yep.
They won on the arm of Deshaun Watson over 400 yards in the air.
Yep.
This is not what they want to see. They want to see that ground them out, pound them, smash mouth football.
Yeah.
They don't want to see an electrifying game. And that's what you get if you get the team from the Big 12.
Yep.
Is that you get fireworks all night long, Captain.
That's a big point. TCU 7-1 going into the game against Texas 4-4, and TCU with a 24-7 win over the Longhorns. And you had Minnesota 4-4 going into Michigan. Michigan with a 33-10 win in the Big Ten. So a good game for Harbaugh. LSU, number 20 in the country at the time, 6-2 on the season, going into number 1 Alabama at Tuscaloosa, a 24-10 victory by Alabama. They were favored by 21, and they end up winning by 14. But Big C, what did you see with the resilience that LSU actually didn't play that bad? It's just Alabama kept pulling away, Big C, because they're a lot stronger in the trenches. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, LSU is still in a rebuilding. This is Orgeron's first year.
Yeah.
So this is the first year trying to utilize some players that he recruited.
Yeah.
So it's still going to take some time. LSU has to find a quarterback.
Yeah.
Over the history of LSU, they have just not had a top-flight quarterback. Every time you turn around, they got great running backs, great defense. But for some reason, this program does not know how to recruit a quarterback. Yeah. They've had some transfers come in, but go out and get a guy from scratch. I mean, it's too many quarterbacks around in the country.
Yeah.
You think about the great receivers they put into the NFL without even having a quarterback.
Yeah.
But this Alabama program, Charlton, is just a juggernaut.
Yeah.
They don't play down to their talent, that they're playing. They play consistent football. Everybody plays Alabama. That's their bowl game. You have to understand that. So you're getting the best of the best from that opposing team every week facing Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama is being able to stand the tide of, no pun intended,
no pun intended, the tide of moonshine. Yeah.
Week after week. Now, Alabama's true test is going to come in the Iron Bowl versus Auburn.
Yeah.
With Jared Stidham. We talked about a passing quarterback that the Bowl Championship Series does not want to see.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to face when he plays the University of Auburn.
Yeah.
They're not going to run the ball against Alabama. They're going to put the ball in the air 40, 45 times to see if Alabama can stop them. Because Alabama has lost some critical players on defense, especially at the linebacker position, Charlton. So they're going to look to challenge them through the air. That's
a very good point. Very, very well-coached team down there at the Tide. Virginia Tech at Miami, and Miami showed that they're a better team, a 28-10 win. Miami will be challenged by Notre Dame coming into there. Hopefully it doesn't rain. It's great to see teams that are capable of beating each other, not having to play on the rain service. They were favored against Texas, actually Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech by 2.5. I think Notre Dame's a much better team than Virginia Tech coming in there. I want to swing out to the West Coast for 2 games. Oregon having a tough go this year. They were 5-4 going into the game against number 11 Washington, 7-1, which goes to 8-1 in the season. And Jake Browning throwing the ball the way he can and has been most of the season. A 38-3 win by the Huskies. They scored 38 unanswered points, and they were favored by 17.5. They end up winning by 35. I know this team was in the Final Four last year. I know they're a better team this year than they were last year, but it seems like they're still on the outside looking in because of that loss they had at Arizona State a couple of weeks ago. Your thoughts on Washington? Can they do enough by blowing out an Oregon team to get back into the talk about who's going to be in that Final Four, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, the problem that Washington has when you look at all the losses that everybody in the pack has, they've all lost to teams that won't be in the championship run. That's the most critical part about it. You know, you looked at USC, they were favored to win it all.
Yeah.
Washington came in after being in the bowl series last year.
Yeah.
Washington State started off hot. But all these teams have lost to teams that they shouldn't have lost to.
Yeah.
They've had some very close competitive games. When you look at the game that they beat Oregon's a 500 ball club, Charles.
Yeah.
So no one's going to give that win any credibility when you're looking at the bowl committee. They talk about the eye test. Like I keep telling you, I can hardly see, so I don't know what the eye test is.
It's too much of that shine you're drinking, Big C. Too much shine going in your system.
I know what a W feels like when I hold an alphabet letter, and I know what a L feels like when I hold an alphabet letter.
Yeah.
That's not always the most discerning thing to the bowl committee, Charles.
Yeah.
It's about who do we want. You know, and when you look at the top teams, Charlton, that were seated in this last week's bowl scenario.
Yeah.
Look at the size of their stadiums.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
First and foremost, look at the size of
how
their
they
stadiums.
travel.
Georgia seats 85,000.
Yeah.
Alabama seats 103,000.
Yeah.
Ohio State seats 105,000.
Yeah.
You know, so this is what you look at when you start talking about the bowl ranking.
Yeah.
The fans have to pay attention to that. You're not going to find a team in the bowl rankings that their home stadium only seats 55,000 fans.
Yeah,
You're not going to get that.
What does TCU hold about?
You're at 80+ thousand to get into the bowl ranking.
And that's the thing that hurts even at TCU if they win the Big 12. They hold they have less than 50,000 at that stadium.
43,000 at TCU.
Yeah. So that doesn't bode well when you're trying to say how many people will travel with this team if they have a game across the country. Big C, final game in college football. The USC Trojans, they get a win at home. In fact, they have the longest home win streak at home in college football, and they go to 8-2 on this season with a 49-35 victory over number 25 Arizona. And I was surprised that USC won by that much. I thought they could either squeak out a win or they would lose because Arizona could score a lot of points. But when you score 35 points in a loss, that means your defense is suspect, even though the offense for Arizona I'm very impressed with. But your talk on Sam Darnold, I still see where he threw an interception and could have had another interception, even though he had a couple of good passes. I hope the kid comes back for another year if he wants to get better. Of course, everybody says take the money. Your thoughts on Sam Darnold, Big C, and the Trojans?
Well, you know, you take the money, Charlton, but what are you going into in the NFL?
Yeah.
When you look at the most dismal teams in the NFL, you know, one of them down in your neighborhood.
The 49ers?
The other one's on the East Coast,
the
Giants.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go into a situation where you have help.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I mean, everybody's eventually going to come out. You're going to get drafted. You got to risk injury in college versus, you know, getting the money in the pros.
Yeah.
So, you know, whether he comes out or not, Charlton, he can learn on the pro level or he can stay in and get more reps on the college level.
Yep.
I don't think that he's NFL ready for us throwing the ball because when you look at the interceptions that Donald throws, he's throwing those against college players.
Yeah.
That don't break on the ball as well as NFL defensive
That's
backs.
true. And
Okay?
that's a very good point.
And so that's something that people always need to understand. When you have a copious amount of interceptions in college, these are college defensive backs. A lot of times, Charlton, you're throwing against freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
In the NFL, you're throwing against all pros.
Well,
and they will bait you.
Well, I would love to see him stay at least 3 years and get some more tutelage under his belt. But who can turn down the kind of money they throw at people? But some great games coming up this weekend. We'll preview them on Thursday and Friday. Georgia at Auburn, Notre Dame at Miami, Oklahoma at TCU, and Wisconsin at Iowa. You can't let your guards down against a team like Iowa. They find a way to knock people off. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And when you need athletic and event insurance, we work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, even your mom and pop soccer leagues. When you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. Big C, we'll run down in the quick 30 minutes of our show left. We have the NFL tonight. I know we have Monday Night Football, the Lions at the Packers. Let me get your thoughts on that, and then we'll run down the weekend. That game's tonight, 8:30 kickoff. ESPN, Sean McDonough, John Gruden, Lisa Salters have the play-by-play. And I look at a team like Detroit and the Packers. It's the Midwest football at Lambeau Field. It doesn't really get better than that, Big C, even though they're missing the great Aaron Rodgers. Your thoughts on the game tonight?
And it's cold there, too, tonight.
Yeah.
So don't forget about that.
Yeah.
But this is one of those games that when you look at the quarterback in Detroit.
Yep, Stafford.
He should not be putting that on his resume.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford should not have a comfort behind victory tonight. This is a game that if he is what they pay him to be,
yeah,
Detroit should win this game by at least 17 points, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because Huntley is struggling.
Yeah.
He didn't get 100 yards in his first start as a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I know that the whole Green Bay Packer offense is struggling because it's built around, Rodgers.
Yeah.
But when I look at this thing with Stafford, that all year long he's passed for probably as many yards as any quarterback in the NFL, but he doesn't have the victories to stack up for it, John.
No.
This is a night that he has to find and separate himself as a true bona fide NFL quarterback, where he has to go out and lead this game from start to finish. Because if he's outdueled or even get in a shootout
yeah,
with Huntley and Green Bay,
yep,
you have to question yourself again. Why are you paying Stafford all this money?
Hey, there's a guy.
And he's not delivering.
There's a show in Detroit called Pawn Shop, and these good old boys, they pawn everything. Maybe they could pawn that contract that he has if they can't beat Green Bay tonight against Huntley, Big C. I want to go into one of the other games that happened throughout the week. The Raiders last night in an NBC special Sunday night game with NBC Sports, the great Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Michelle Tafoya. The Raiders get the win 27-24 over the Dolphins. Now, they were favored by 3 points, and when the Dolphins had that last drive to cover 3 points, I know it made Las Vegas happy. Cutler actually looked pretty decent against the Raiders' defense, Big C. Your thoughts on Oakland and Beast Mode getting his 2 touchdowns back?
Well, you speak about Cutler, Charlton. You paid him $10 million.
Yeah.
And what did you expect? Did you expect him to come in and lead you to a winning season? No, you didn't.
No.
You expected for him to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
To be Jay Cutler. To go out, at times he'll have flashes, but also he has flashbacks.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Because with his flashes, he has flashbacks. And even when he's playing well, he all of a sudden he has his flashback. Hell,
Yeah.
I'm not an NFL quarterback. I'm Jay Cutler.
That's funny, Big C.
But they paid me $10 million, so I had to come out here and show everybody I was still Jay Cutler.
Oh, yeah.
The Raiders sorely needed this win to keep pace with Kansas City.
Yeah.
And so they got the win on the road. Marshawn Lynch come back after his suspension, has some productivity. They need to keep them productive as the year goes on, no choke.
Yeah, that's a good point. But one thing, too, about the Raiders organization, and I know it's good to get a win at cross country. They've been struggling. They go to 4-5 on the season. They have a bye week, but their next game is a home game, but they're playing it in Mexico. So, for Davis, Trump hasn't built the wall soon enough because they're just whipping the heart out over the Oakland fans again. They're saying, look, you have a little bit of hope for the season going into the second half of the season, and they're going to start the second half of the season in South America, Big C. What a sham for the Oakland Raiders and the NFL to allow that to happen to a team they're going to leave anyway, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is one of those relationship-building things that the NFL has with the Latin community, Charlton, and they played games. They played last year down in Mexico.
Yeah.
When they beat up on your buddy Brock Osweiler down there, Charlton.
Yep.
So the Raiders have had some success. I don't know if they're drinking the water or not down there, but they've had some success in Mexico City.
Yeah.
And playing at altitude, I wonder why the Denver Broncos don't play more games down there, Charlton, with the height of Mexico City. Would probably give them an advantage.
Yeah, that's a good point. So hopefully the Raider fans can get over it, but they're leaving anyway. It's just a shame they keep dragging it to their face. I want to get a game up in the great Northwest. Doesn't make sense that it happened this way, but Seattle with their lackluster offense, they were favored to win this game over the Washington Redskins. The Redskins 3-4 going into it. They come out 4-4. The Seahawks fall to 5-3. That game was Sunday on Fox with Kevin Burkhardt, Charles Davis, and Pam Oliver. How does Seattle blow a lead against Kirk Cousins at home? It just doesn't make any sense. They're only human, but how do they have a lapse against a team like the Redskins that got in there with a 17-14 victory? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, is what we talk about, the run after catch with receivers.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks get all the praise. But, the media forgets to say that it was only an 8-yard pass.
Yeah.
It was only a 7-yard pass. And he ran for 12. He ran for 22.
Yeah.
These are the things that the media don't elaborate on. You always want to hype the quarterback up as much as you can. It's part of the play. But also give some praise to those receivers who were able to make some moves down the field.
Yep.
And for Washington to be able to pull this one out after some of the abysmal performances that they've had over the past month, Charlton, but also Kirk Cousins getting a lot of praise for coming from behind. But you also got to look at Kirk Cousins' resume. How many games has he not covered behind?
Yeah.
Seattle needed this game to keep pace with the Rams.
Yep.
But, they snuck this one out, Washington.
Yep.
But who is Washington trying to keep pace with? I mean, you got Philly running away with the division.
Philly and Dallas
is number 2.
Yeah.
They really got to pull it up, Charlton, if they plan to catch Dallas alone.
That's a very good point. Also on the West Coast, Big C, we'll keep it on the West Coast. This game was Sunday at 4:05 start on Fox Sports. Chris Myers, Dale Johnson, and Laurel Oakland had the play-by-play. I look at the Cardinals, who have, they have their own issues health-wise, but Adrian Peterson had a great game against the 49ers. The Cardinals go to 4-4 in the season, and the Niners fall to 0-9 with a 20-10 loss at home in front of about 40,000 fans at the beautiful Levi Stadium. And the organization deserves more. Again, it goes back to, why do you get Garoppolo in town when you say you don't want him to get hurt? What is that saying to the quarterback you're starting? In fact, what is it saying to your organization when you make a big uproar about bringing someone who's going to help your team win, so they think, and you don't even play him because you don't want him to get hurt? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, once again, C.J. Beathard passed for under 50% completion ratio, okay?
Yeah.
This is not an NFL starting quarterback. Under 50% completions, under 200 yards passing.
Yeah.
3 consecutive weeks. You're not going to win NFL games. Although management said they didn't care about winning.
They didn't care, no.
They sent out the demo to the fans.
Yeah.
Winning's not important.
Yeah, they told us that.
What you got to look at the 49ers organization, Charlton, the most embarrassing thing to the NFL is 5 minutes to go on a 49er home game.
Yeah.
When there's 2,000 people left in the stadium.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a high school game or a junior college game.
Yeah.
We're talking about an NFL game, Charlton, with 5 minutes to go. There's 2,000 people left in the stadium.
Well,
That's a total embarrassment. So John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan need to look at what they did. This has to be Jimmy Garoppolo week.
Yeah.
I don't care if he breaks his back. He has to come out there and perform, because you got to find out, do you need to draft a quarterback, or is he going to be your quarterback? We already know that he's a system quarterback for New England.
Yeah.
But can he get it done under that fierce pass rush that he's going to face in San Francisco with no offensive line, no receiving core? Running back Carlos Hyde can't get 50 yards in a game.
No.
Joe Staley's hurt at offensive tackle with a broken orbital bone, Charlton.
Yep.
This is a quarterback that really, I don't even know if he wants to play. Everybody says the right thing. I'm elated about this situation.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the lack of talent around me and wondering, why did they trade for me?
Well, one thing I gotta bring up, because it's easy to say that hindsight's 2020, but I look at the Bay Area media, and I worked over there for many years. Even their top radio stations, there were so many people calling for get rid of Kaepernick. We don't need this guy. He's hurting our organization. We can't win with him. No one's gonna go to the games if Kaepernick's the quarterback because he cares about Black Lives Matter. And they got what they wanted. They have no wins since Kaepernick left the organization from last year. This team is 0-8, and they don't even look like they're a team that has those 5 Super Bowl championships there. But the Bay Area media that were all over Kaepernick, even their radio guys that were on Kaepernick about he doesn't have it anymore, we need to get rid of him, they were calling for somebody else outside of number 7 that took them to the last Super Bowl. Well, now that they got what they want, they're all happy about Garoppolo. He doesn't even play the game, Big C. Another game that I want to bring it to that has playoff implications. The Atlanta Falcons, last year's Super Bowl runner-up, they're 4-4 now on this season. At Carolina, which goes to 6-3. Carolina gets a big 20-17 win. That game was Sunday on Fox Sports. Joe Buck, the great Troy Aikman, and Ann Andrews with the play-by-play. Your thoughts on these $100 million quarterbacks and Matt Ryan? If it were not for a close call at Detroit and another close game they had, this team could be looking at 2 wins. Chicago, this team's looking at 2 wins with a guy making $125 million, and they have the most beautiful stadium in the history of the universe right now at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But your thoughts on Atlanta? Are they going to miss the playoffs this year, Big C?
Well, Charles, I think if you go back to our preseason show when we talked about Atlanta, having that Super Bowl hangover.
Maybe it's real.
They were just a 500 ball club.
Yeah.
And that's where they are right now. They're 500. They shouldn't even be 500, but they've gotten lucky and made it to 500.
No.
This is a team that's struggling with identity, Charlton.
Yeah.
You got 2 tremendous running backs, but you got a quarterback that wants to be tremendous also.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan is better as being a game manager than he is being a star.
Yeah.
But, the media has built him up to be a star.
Yeah.
Maybe, how far is Alabama Alabama from Georgia?
I think it's not that far, but that's your neck of the woods, Big C. I know.
I mean, they should be able to get an Alabama news station out there and at least call me. If they don't read the press clippings.
Yeah, that's true.
But Matt Ryan, is his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
When you got Coleman and Freeman in the backfield, run them. The NFL is a running league. Yes, I mean, you get quarterbacks that can pass for 300-400 yards on a given Sunday.
Yep.
But as you talked about with Adrian Peterson out in Arizona versus San Francisco, they look great. You think about the 2 games they've won since Adrian Peterson has been there, Charlton.
Yeah, he ran the
Look at
ball.
the amount of yards that he's amassed on the ground in those 2 wins that they've had since that trade.
Yep.
That's the key to success in the NFL. If you look at teams that are winning, even New England runs the ball.
Yeah.
But without a running game, Charlton, you're just a happy team.
Yeah.
Think about Houston prior to Deshaun Watson getting hurt.
Yeah.
He was running the ball, opened up the game for the running backs, Charlton. They were winning. But, you're not going to get that with Matt Ryan. He does not want his running backs to gain 100 yards.
Yeah.
He needs to get 300 in the air is how he feels.
Yeah.
And he's only a 500 quarterback once again, like he was 2 years ago.
That's amazing, and they got guys like Capita that can't get a job. I want to bring up this game too because it has some type of implications about another $100 million quarterback. The Baltimore Ravens, they go to 4-5 on the season. They fall at Tennessee, which now goes to 5-3. And you have Mariota who came back and beat Flacco, a 23-20 win. That game was Sunday on CBS Sports. Kevin Harlan and Rich Gannon had the play-by-play. But I want to just get your thoughts again. And I know they're only human, but when you make a $100 million salary, and even though it's over a couple of years, you're supposed to beat guys that have a guy who's just new to the league over the last couple of years. But Flacco again not able to get it done at the Titans, and the Titans actually look pretty good. They're playing better football now, Big C. 23-20 over the Ravens. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, at times Joe Flacco looks very lackluster.
Yeah.
If you change his jersey for your boy down there in Miami, Jay Cutler,
leave Cutler alone.
I mean, neither one of them will shave. Neither one of them will even have a sparkle in their eye.
Yeah.
Sometime in athletics, you think about having a little enthusiasm, a little jump around. I mean, if you look at the Jets game the other night when they were just jumping around on defense on the field, dancing.
Having fun.
Time.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I was watching a Pop Warner game for a minute. Because, these are grown men acting like kids.
Jets.
Play for free.
Yep.
But Joe Flacco, I think of Joe Flacco. He reminds me a lot of Hugh Hefner, okay?
I want to know how.
He's just laid back and relaxed.
Okay.
Nothing in a hurry, okay?
Okay.
That's my comparison. And that's what I see with Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on him to walk out on the field in a smoking jacket, and some house slippers.
Well,
that's the way he plays the game.
That's funny, Big C. I guess when you have a lot of money like that, you do tend to play a little bit more relaxed. And speaking of relaxed, what's up with the Denver Broncos getting beat down by Philadelphia by the score of 51-23? The Eagles go to 8-1 on the season. The Broncos fall to 3-5 on the season. This is still, for the most part, that same number one defense that beat Carolina in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. That game was Sunday on CBS Sports. Iron Eagle and the great Dan Fouts and even Washburn with the play-by-play. Are you believing in the Carson Wentz hype the way a lot of people are? Or it looks like the Broncos just really, when you have Brock Osweiler, that shows you they can't find anyone better than him to come and lead their team. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, not Brock Osweiler, but Carson Wentz is doing what you and I talked about at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
They surrounded him with a receiving corps.
Yeah.
When you look at Smith and Jeffries, they brought in Blunt.
Yeah.
They surrounded him with some offensive talent, which he didn't have last year.
No.
He had a bunch of young receivers. Even Aguilar was benched last year, and he got around some veteran receivers this year, Carlton, and he's learned how to play football.
Yeah.
That's been the biggest improvement in the Eagles. I mean, Carson Wentz is playing like he played last year.
Yeah.
He honestly is.
Yeah.
He just has better weapons to work with.
Yeah.
And so when you're not forced to go to guys who don't want to catch the football, Charlton, it can make you look good. And that's what has happened with Carson Wentz. I know people are talking about potential NFL MVP this year.
Not yet.
But the talent around him has improved immensely.
Yeah.
And when you look on the other side of the slate, your cousin, your neighbor, Brock Osweiler, whatever he is,
yeah.
he was Brock Osweiler.
Yeah.
I heard a guy today that works for the mothership.
Yeah.
One of the NFL insiders who's always on his telephone,
right?
Texting,
yeah.
saying that Brock Osweiler played very well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, what are he drinking?
Yeah.
Brock Osweiler did not complete 50% of his passes, Charlton.
That's well, Big C. That's considered well.
He did not throw for 200 yards, Charlton.
Yeah.
Okay? And his touchdown to interception ratio was 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions.
Yeah, that's
so
well.
That's playing well in the NFL. The guy with the text on the ear, on the mothership, that's an insider.
Yeah.
I mean, he got to check his moonshine cup.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think his cup is empty. Speaking of another cup that needs to be checked, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall to 2-6 on the season. The Saints go to 6-2 with a 30-10 win over Tampa. That game was Sunday on CBS Sports. Tom Brenneman, Chris Spielman, and Peter Shager have the play-by-play. Your thoughts on a lot of people making fun of Winston with the trying to have the W sign saying let's eat something, let's get a win, or whatever they're eating down south, Big C, and just your thoughts on the Saints. I think the Saints go marching in. They look like they're going to win that division. It's going to come down to them in Carolina. And no matter what's going on with Tampa right now, the Saints look like they have the renaissance down there with the great Drew Brees. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, two of the most inverted teams in the NFL. I mean, the Saints, nobody gave the Saints a chance at the beginning of the season.
No.
They had no defense, no receivers. But something has happened in the Crescent City. Some magic has happened, Charlton. Yeah. The Saints are playing defense like they played a decade ago when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Drew Brees has learned how to facilitate. He's become a real game manager because he's allowed his running game to run time off the clock, Charlton. He doesn't feel he has to go out and throw for 350 yards every game.
Yeah.
And 2 touchdowns. He now has a set of running backs in Ingram and Cremora that are getting the job done on the ground.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I really don't even know if they want to play football this year.
No, they're more.
They have that mentality that's like, hey, we're getting paid.
Yeah.
This is a team that was supposed to have been a contender for the division, Charlton, and all they're contending for is a top 5 draft pick.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I don't see the motivation when they're out on the field, offensively or defensively, to make things happen. You got Fitzpatrick playing quarterback. Now, he couldn't play in New York last year.
Yeah.
But he's still in the NFL.
Yeah.
You got Jameis Winston running his mouth, starting to fight, getting his teammate kicked out of a game and suspended.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even playing.
Wasn't even playing.
If the NFL should have done, they should have suspended Winston also.
Yeah, they should have.
He created a scenario that should not have happened with NFL players.
Yeah, I guess he's going to pay half the fine, but not half the missing the game. And then, are we watching MMA in the NFL? AJ Green and Jalen Ramsey, and you have the Bengals fallen to 3-5 on the season. The Jaguars have a decent team. They're 5-3 now, a 23-7 win. But I don't want to see the guys being. I mean, AJ Green, you gotta say walk away. You gotta be the bigger man. If you have a knucklehead in Ramsey that's provoking you the whole time, go to the officials, go to the head coaches, and have them be aware of it. But don't cost your team. Not that they're going anywhere this year anyway, Big C. But you don't want to have someone goat you into being thrown out of a game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's just one of 3 fights that happened this past week.
Yeah.
We just got through talking about Mike Evans down in New Orleans getting kicked out and getting fined by the league.
Yep.
Actually suspended for a game. You're looking at A.J. Green and Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, how much credence can you put into an NFL fight? What are players paid to be in the NFL? They're paid to be violent and to beat up on each other, aren't they, Charlton?
Yeah.
So there's a fight going on every play. If you look down in the trenches, linemen are fighting every play.
Yeah.
Jacksonville has a tremendous defense. If you think about it, they held their opponent to just a mere 7 points, 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
All their offense has to do is get a couple scores.
Yeah.
They can win, and they've proven that this year. They've invested a lot over the last 3 years in improving that defense. You talked about Ramsey, former number 1 pick. You looked at Ely last year, who missed the season with a blown-out knee, number 1 pick.
Yeah.
They bring in the defensive tackles, through free agency out of Arizona. This is a team that can play some defense and should make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Blake Bortles, just don't be Blake Bortles. Just hand the ball off.
Hand the
Maroney.
Yeah.
Just hand the ball off. Don't be Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
Hand the ball off, and they'll make the playoffs.
That's a very good point, Big C. 2 more games to go, Big C. We have a team that we thought would be good this year if they tried to do things the right way, and that's the the Rams with their 51-17 win over the Giants. They go to 6-2 on the seasons. The Giants fall to 1-6. That game was on Fox Sports. Kenny Albert, Rondé Barber, and Christina Pink had the play-by-play. Your thoughts on the Rams? They look very, very explosive, Big C, throwing the football. Your thoughts?
Well, they're the highest scoring team in the NFL, Charlton, but you think about it. The Eastern Division of the NFC.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
2 teams, 51 points. One gave it up, one scored it. Okay?
Yep.
So you're talking about opposite direction.
Yeah.
But this is a time that Ben McAdoo, who will not be around at the end of this season, when you talk about a coach on a hot seat,
yeah.
I mean, they could put gasoline on it, it wouldn't get any hotter.
No. Well, look at Manning.
The problem I had with Ben McAdoo, he's talking about evaluating players.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's like the college football selection committee,
yeah.
The eye test.
Yeah.
Okay. People laughed at Odell Beckham last year and criticized him for going down to Miami and all, before the playoff game against Green Bay.
Yeah.
They criticized Odell Beckham for wanting to hold out and wanting a new contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Saying
that he wasn't the Giants, it was Eli Manning's team. All right? Odell Beckham hasn't been around.
No.
So, whose team is it?
I think it's Eli's team.
Eli's team.
Yeah.
So you can't blame Odell now for when they lost to Green Bay in the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right, 'cause there's been 7 times or 8 times already this year. You got to blame Eli.
You got to blame.
You can't blame Odell. So the media can't jump on Odell saying that he's not there, or he's out partying, and he's doing this, he's coming in late.
Yeah.
Where's Eli? Somebody's got to point a finger at Eli. And Ben McAdoo, I know he's probably he's fearful of ownership saying you can't bench Eli.
Yeah.
Okay? But this is a situation where you have to evaluate yourself. You're not going to be around as a head coach.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
What do you got to lose by benching Eli and seeing who else is there? You got 2 other quarterbacks on the roster.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You got to find somebody who can try to create some offense. Because Eli, I don't know if he can't or he's refusing to. One of the two.
I think sometime it might be a little bit of both. They have so much money, they're comfortable no matter what happens. Big C, the last game we'll cover, and it has a little bit of a twist to it because I look at the Houston Texans and the game against the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis goes to 3-5 on the season. They get a win, and they get a win at Texas. The Texans fall to 3-5, and I look at what happened with Deshaun Watson being injured in practice. They were averaging over 34 points a game with Watson at quarterback, and now he's gone. Now the ownership has a chance to get a quarterback that looks just like Watson, his mechanics, his size, his speed. Kaepernick might be a little bit faster than Deshaun Watson, and Kaepernick may have a stronger arm than Deshaun Watson, and he has more experience, and he does have a Super Bowl experience that Deshaun Watson doesn't have. Why is that not enough for the good old boys down in Houston who just celebrated a World Series by bringing in Verlander, who could throw the ball and pitch the ball and get people out? They have a quarterback on the market that has Super Bowl experience. Being sued by somebody doesn't stop you from doing what's best for your team and your city and your organization. Why will they not even take a look at a guy who's just like what they have, but a little bit better in Kaepernick? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think this is going to come down to Bob McNair, Charlton, the owner, who believes that the players are inmates. The African-American players are inmates.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And Colin Kaepernick started the thought of the inmates being in charge, okay?
Yeah.
So Bob McNair is not willing to touch Colin Kaepernick. He doesn't care how many games he loses, but he's standing on his principle that he's not going to let an inmate come in there and change the organization around.
Wow.
That's where the Houston Texans are right now, Charlton. Colin Kaepernick was the only free agent quarterback out there that fit their system.
Yeah.
When this kid went down.
When Watson went down,
now you put Savage back in, and he plays like a Savage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's unrefined. He's like what Oswald was. Now, you think about it, he couldn't beat out Brock Oswald if they got rid of him.
No, that's true. No.
He could only last half a game when Deshaun Watson was sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
So why would you bring in Colin Kaepernick, who would give you the best chance of rejuvenating your offense
for the fans,
playing in the system that you set up for Deshaun Watson, who would give you that same type of quarterbacking?
Yeah.
But no, you want Savage, a guy who holds the ball too long,
yep,
who has no mobility, who can't even help his receivers like Colin Kaepernick could.
Yep.
So this is where you are as the Houston Texans. You'll be lucky to win another 2 games this season.
Yeah, and
to Tom Savage at quarterback.
Yeah.
Unless you bench him.
Yeah, and I think it's bad for the players who give it all they have, and they're one injury away from having a career-ending injury, but they go out and they show up anyway, and they have an ownership. You don't have to like people that work for you. There's a lot of people that don't like each other on football teams, but they work together for the team. There are a lot of fans that they don't like the guy they sit next to, but they want to enjoy the game. There are people who work for corporations that don't necessarily like each other. Not every owner of a team likes his players, but the guy can help you win, and sometimes you would think that makes a difference. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bondini Brown. He was Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charles, something very interesting is about to come about. There's going to be a meeting in the NFL headquarters with the players and NFL management, i.e. the commission.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick has been invited to that meeting, and he said that he would attend that meeting.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to Colin Kaepernick having a chance to sit down with NFL brass, and hopefully they can figure something out to get Colin Kaepernick back into the NFL, where the NFL sorely needs another quality quarterback, Charlton.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense for all the people who spend a lot of money going to games, and they just want to see people win, and they want to cheer and have a good time. You can always cheer and have a good time every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, following Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any reason for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through that garbage, please call 911 so she won't have to deal with it on her own. And as we tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.